Emanuel AME opens its doors. All right, thanks for staying with us this Sunday morning. We are looking live right now at the scene at Emanuel AME Church in Charleston, South Carolina. That church opening its doors this morning for services for the first time since Wednesday night, when a young man gunned down 9 people during a Bible study session in a racially motivated attack. As that city tries to heal now, the sanctuary morphing back from crime scene to house of worship. Begin this hour by going now to MSNBC's Adam Reese in Charleston. Adam.
Steve, good morning to you. The service is about to begin in about a half hour. I want to show you the front door. People arriving here not only from Charleston, but from around the region to remember those 9 lives lost. It's a healing process. They say today here in the Holy City, their hearts are heavy, but they will get through this as best they can. I had a chance to talk to Mayor Joe Riley. He's been in office here almost 40 years. Here's what he had to say. They say this morning they're going to try to move on. How do you move on?
Well, you move on by working to make the future better. First of all, we make sure we met with families yesterday, met before, and that we are never going to leave them. As long as they're around, we're here to support them. We help them through this, we help them through the funerals, we're raising money and all that, but we are never not at their side.
Now, this is just a tremendous outpouring of grief. When I was done speaking to the mayor, he told me off camera, everyone he talks to here in the Holy City, they just cannot stop crying. Steve?
All right, Adam Reese in Charleston, thank you for that. We're going to be closely monitoring that church service throughout the hour. As we do that, we're going to turn now to this country's debate over gun laws, a long, contentious national dialogue that has been revived once again by Wednesday's brutal attack. And as President Obama has, after past mass shootings more than 14 times now since he took office, the president saying this week that stricter gun laws would save lives.
We need a change in attitudes among everybody. Lawful gun owners, those who are unfamiliar with guns. We have to have a conversation about it and fix this. And ultimately, Congress acts when the public insists on action.
The debate also prompting reaction from many of the men and women hoping to replace President Obama. But even if the voting public insists on action, as it has said in polls in the past, will that result in actual, concrete, and effective legislation? Is anything going to be different this time? Joining the panel this morning is Congressman Chaka Fattah, a Democrat from Pennsylvania, who's the vice chair of the House Gun Violence Prevention Task Force. Back here at the table, MSNBC contributor Jonathan Capehart, Republican consultant Katie Packard-Gage, Caitlin Huey-Burns, reporter with RealClearPolitics. Well, Congressman, let me start with you. I mean, look, we can put the polls up on the screen when we talk about a lot of gun control measures, whether it's background checks, things of that nature. They always seem to poll well, but it also seems the politicians who don't do anything about it, who don't vote for it, who vote against it, they never pay a price for it. Is there any reason to think that dynamic's going to change in the near future?
Well, I think that what the public would be very disappointed about is, if you just roll the tape back 10 days, I'm on the House floor, we're debating amendments that Republicans put up that passed that would allow greater access to silencers for guns, that would allow armor-piercing bullets to be sold. I mean, not only are we not moving in the right direction, we're actually moving in the wrong direction. And, the bottom line is you hear opponents say, well, it wouldn't have stopped this shooting or that shooting. We had a shooting in Philadelphia yesterday at a picnic in which almost 10 people were shot, including a number of children. The reality is that, because we have traffic laws, there's still people who run red lights, but it does save lives. It does have most people try to obey the law. And we know that reasonable gun control will provide a safer society. And we know something else, Steve, is that those of us making those decisions, look at what we do. We're in buildings in which you can't bring guns in which we check to make sure you can't bring. We know how dangerous guns are, but we legislate that you can bring them in schools or in colleges or, some states allow them in churches and on and on and on, as if, they are God's gift. And really, guns are a danger, and they're more dangerous when they're put in the hands of people who have hatred in their heart or are mentally challenged or unstable. But guns themselves are part of the problem.
It seems, though, politically, that there is a certain futility to this. And I start to wonder, you think of Newtown, you think of Sandy Hook. I mean, 20 children gunned down in a school, and then background checks come up in Congress, and nothing happens. You think of Aurora, you think of, go back 20 years to Columbine, you think of this. And I guess, Congressman, the question just occurs to me over and over again when you look at these. If Sandy Hook, if 20 dead children in Sandy Hook wouldn't stir Congress to action, is there anything that possibly would?
Well, there is action taking place at the local level. I mean, one of the things that efforts put together by my friend, the mayor of Charleston, and Mayor Bloomberg and others, mayors around the country have organized themselves. Local communities are getting more engaged because the relief is not coming from Washington, but it is starting to build at a community level that more needs to be done. Mayor Bill Finch just announced a major gun buyback program in New England. So, you know, we have to work harder at this, but we can't give up, and we need to demand as part of the presidential debate. I was so happy to see Hillary Clinton come out strongly in favor of reasonable gun control. And, you know, the Supreme Court, you won't be able to take a gun in there this week when you go in to hear the reports from their rulings. We need to demand that the people making these decisions protect us as a community as much as they protect themselves.
Well, let me bring the panel in here. Jonathan, do you expect we're going to be hearing about this issue about gun control on the campaign trail in 2016, or is this something we hear about it in this week immediately after Charleston and then we stop hearing about it?
Both. Because just as a nation, we move on to the next shiny object. But I do think that on the campaign trail, the candidates do have to talk about this. Hillary Clinton, her speech at the Conference of Mayors yesterday was fantastic on a whole host of issues in that speech, but particularly on gun control. And to your point about Newtown and 20 children slaughtered in an elementary school, which we had never seen before, shocked the nation. 90% of the American people supported background checks, and Congress did nothing. It failed. Congress is in thrall to the NRA. And this is where I disagree with the president when he says when the American people rise up and push Congress to do something, Congress has to listen. That's an instance when Congress didn't listen at all. And so what I think the American people have to rise up against the special interests, in this case, the NRA.
How many congressmen, though, who voted against the background checks in the wake of Newtown, did 90% say they supported in polls? How many lost their seats? How many lost their seats? Because that's the thing that I always wonder when I see that 90% number is how intense is that? How focused is that? You know, because if it were 90% who were just adamantly focused, we have to have this, surely some of these people will be losing their seats because of it.
Well, I think the sentiment that you're seeing truly is this high number of people that just want the killing to stop. They don't really know what the solution is. And nobody's really proposing something that actually is a real solution. And I think there is a frustration for those that are responsible gun owners that when things like this happen, all we talk about is gun control. How about the fact that these are crazy people and there are signs that they're going to do crazy things and nobody does anything about it? This young man, you know, I saw a story yesterday that one of his black friends said, I don't think he just hates black people, I think he hates humans. So there were signs that this guy was really troubled and something was wrong and he was on the edge, and nobody does anything about it, nobody says anything about it. You know, Hillary Clinton talked yesterday about, you know, mental health, you know, sort of qualifications. How do you determine that? You know, where do you cross the line between, or where do you draw the line between what doctors are allowed to disclose, you know, to people outside of their patient about somebody's mental health? So there's a lot of complicating factors. The passion you see, though, is people don't want to see people getting killed, and they just don't know what the solution is.
Well, Congressman, yeah, go ahead, Congressman.
Part of the solution is not to say that you have to have a miracle cure for everything. We have to have a license to drive a car, right? So, yes, there may be some bad drivers out there. There may be drivers who break the law. But there's a process in which we can try to make the roads safer, and we can do the same with guns. That is, there's no reason for us to have more noise suppression devices for guns. Hundreds of thousands of them provided easy access to in this country. Automatic weapons, armor-piercing bullets. There are places where responsible gun owners can agree, and they do agree, that we should have background checks for all sales of guns, and that the Congress won't act on this is the real problem that we can't walk away from by saying, well, yeah, but can't we do something about mental health challenges? Yes, I have a bill to do something about mental health issues around our young people, but that doesn't mean we should back away from a demand for the kind of reasonableness in gun registration and not gun registration, but gun control, reasonable gun control in our country, so that you don't have automatic weapons or semi-automatic weapons provided to people who should not be able to have them.
All right, Congressman Chaka Fattah, Democrat from Pennsylvania. Appreciate the time this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.